Power, our most powerful grease-cutting formula to effortlessly tackle nasty baked-on pans like this, with 4 times less scrubbing versus the next best-selling brand, without needing hot water, for less time at the sink and more time together. Fairy Max Power. Maximum power, minimal scrubbing.
And that never left him either, by the way. As you said, he moved to LA, had this Bel Air mansion, had a lot of money, obviously, but he never dropped that accent, and he could have done. He lived away from Birmingham for long enough for that accent to disappear if he wanted it to, but he never let go of his roots, and he never stopped dressing in black with purple sunglasses, and he never stopped doing the Sign of the Beast when he could, and all that sort of stuff. So he was faithful to that way of life to the end.
Yeah, he certainly was, wasn't he? And such a showman, as you say, too. Just talk me through, some of the kind of musical innovations that he did. Were there any big albums, any big songs that you think will always, define Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne himself?
Well, the one that's going to be ringing out around the world tonight is probably Paranoid. That's the one I was saying that heavy metal is not necessarily a mainstream thing, but it is. That's the one that is going to be ringing around the world tonight. And also the song that became the theme tune of the Osbournes too, albeit in a swing style that was very amusing, Changes, which is a song he did as a solo artist. And then he later did a duet actually with his daughter Kelly with the same song. That's quite a poignant song because it was obviously very heavy rock the majority of the time, but he did have his softer moments. This is a man who was a huge fan of the Beatles, for instance, in the 60s. And when he finally got to meet Paul McCartney not that long ago, 20 years ago, he said a big thank you to him because I don't think he would have picked up a guitar without him. So he liked his softer moments as well, his quieter songs, his more introspective moments.
Yeah, I think we can hear a little bit of the man himself. I'm hoping that we should be able to play you one of those songs that we're just talking about there, Paranoid. What song? I mean, it gives you a bit of a flavour, I think, doesn't it? And we're going to hear that song, I think, playing around the world in the coming days. Many people reminiscing, of course, about the life of Ozzy Osbourne. And also, to be honest, at home, putting it on your music player. It's one of those moments, I'm sure, where so many people will be listening to that track and many others in the coming days. He was a man who, as you said, kind of invented a musical genre, but it wasn't something that he kind of ever stepped away from. It feels like he's been in the limelight for so many years, continually innovating.
Yeah, in and out of the limelight, definitely, because he had his problems, as I've mentioned before. But he did invent that genre, and he has remained faithful to that sound ever since. He's not sort of done a swing album or anything like that. It's metalists just choose a way of life and they stick with it. And he is their leader. He is the Dark Prince, So he just really lived it, and it coursed through him, and he didn't give up on that. And you could see that in the whole aesthetic of the gig the other week. As I said, the leather throne, the way he really put his all into the performance, because there were doubts before the concert that he would make it through the entire set, that he'd have to go off stage a few times, come back on. But he really wanted to give it his all, because that's what he did for his entire career. Despite the drug problems and everything that beset him in the 80s and 90s, he still pushed through, and he still kept that faith and that aesthetic.
Thank you so much. It's been great to have you here, and it's been really interesting for me getting some of your memories and insights into the career of this astonishing man. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.
Well, if you're just joining us now, the announcement coming through that Black Sabbath's Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76. His family saying that he...
4 million memories made every year. The going is good. Search horse racing near me.
No hunting for Wi-Fi, no hassling with local SIM cards. Full apply. Peace of mind, always.
So much to him. It was where he was born back in 1948 in Aston in Birmingham. He left school at 15 and then did odd jobs, including factory work, before forming some bands with a school friend, Geezer Butler. What a name that is as well. And then, of course, really things spiralled from there. He didn't just pioneer heavy metal. He effectively invented it and then paved the way for so many of those other great heavy metal bands from, Metallica and onwards as well. And then became a pioneer in a very different way, a reality TV pioneer with the hit show The Naughties that was The Osbournes, alongside his wife Sharon. That real force of nature, I think is probably a good way of describing her, who had that successful career as a music manager, who was really the force behind Ozzy Osbourne in some ways too. And then, of course, with their 2 children as well, starring in that programme. 2 of their 4 children, I should say. They have put out a statement today where they've said, "It is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. We ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time." And it is signed by Sharon, Jack, Kelly, Amy and Louis. He was a heavy metal icon, writing some of those classic tracks like Paranoid, War Pigs and Iron Man. He did have a turbulent reputation with the band, I think it's fair to say. He kind of left Black Sabbath in 1979 over some of those tensions with other members, and then had that very lengthy and successful solo music career as well, releasing more than a dozen albums. Well, let's bring in Emma Birchley, shall we? Emma, thank you for being with us. I would imagine that there's been a real outpouring of reaction to today's news.
This was a man, really, who played such an enormous role for so many people. We know that just 2.5 weeks ago, he appeared at Villa Park for a concert, which was attended and actually included stars from the world of rock who cited him as a huge influence. Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Youngblood. There were tributes from celebrity friends and fans. And for him, just 2.5 weeks before he died, this was a chance for him to see his fans once more, because when he had to cancel concerts in 2023, he was incredibly sad about that. And here, he emerged in front of 40,000 fans at Villa Park. He was, of course, born in Birmingham. Sitting in a black throne, he performed. It was bejewelled with skulls, very appropriate. He rose up through the stage for a concert that was billed as a final bow, and in tears he greeted the crowd, and he told them during that concert, "You've no idea how I feel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." This was someone who was a real star in that, the drink, the drugs. He was in the band, he was out the band, he was back in the band. He was a solo star. He himself, in his time in Black Sabbath and solo, sold 100 million records worldwide. And even as a solo artist, he released 11 albums. He, of course, had alongside him throughout, or certainly from the early 80s, he married his second wife, Sharon, who would end up, when he went solo, managing him. And actually, she was the driving force between the concert that happened just a couple of weeks ago. However, there was a temporary split. This was a man who had a wild life, who admitted that he loved the women, and they had a temporary split in 2016, then getting back together after counselling, and in 2017 renewing their wedding vows in Las Vegas. And as you were saying, really the whole family becoming famous when they appeared, let the cameras into their home in 2002 to 2005 for that MTV show, The Osbournes, which really launched the careers of 2 of their children, Jack and Kelly. So there will be many people today mourning the loss of Ozzy Osbourne, a man who had been ill since 2020. It was then that it was announced that he had, in January 2020, that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which had been discovered after he had a fall. He revealed that on US television. And at the time, his wife said, well, it's not a death sentence by any stretch of the imagination. That was 5 and a bit years ago. Now, having had a real decline in his health, today, very sadly, dying, surrounded by his family, surrounded by love.
Emma, thank you very much for now. As Emma was saying, the heavy metal star, the man who effectively invented the whole genre, Ozzy Osbourne, has died today, surrounded by love, according to his family, at the age of 76. He was a pioneer. He influenced so many other artists who wouldn't have existed, I think it's fair to say, without Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath, of course, as well. One of them, Metallica, who performed alongside him at that gig in Villa Park earlier in July, a band that, of course, was so influential as well. And this is what they've put out on X today. Very, very poignant, I have to say. They haven't put any words with it. They've just put that image there of a broken heart above a picture of themselves when they were younger, probably at the beginning, if you like, of their music adventures, meeting Ozzy Osbourne. And I think it is just very, very clear from that picture what an influence Ozzy Osbourne had on so many other musical artists, and, of course, the whole community of people who love heavy metal. And for them, he will always be the Prince of Darkness as well. Metallica, of course, performed supporting Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath on stage at Villa Park earlier in July. It was seen as his farewell tour, and in many ways it's incredibly poignant, I think, that he did manage to get that chance to say goodbye to those fans who have been so loyal to him throughout his whole career, and that always had that relationship with him, the most dynamic of frontmen as well. At the time, he said to the crowd, "You've no idea how I feel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." That's what he told the crowd as he performed from a throne, very typically Ozzy Osbourne, a throne on the stage at Villa Park. And I think we can bring you a little bit of that performance. I think you can see there what it means to him. That was on the 5th of July. So that was just 2.5 weeks or so ago that Ozzy Osbourne wanted to give his fans the greatest farewell tour, if you like, that they could have ever wished for from Black Sabbath, reuniting with some of his bandmates too, and also having performances and being supported by some of his own favourite acts, some acts who were so influenced by him, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, these kind of icons of the heavy metal genre that Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath really invented. The reason that the name heavy metal exists is from an early review of one of their concerts where the journalist said that the sound sounded just like, heavy metal banging together, and they read that review, which I'm sure wasn't meant to be a compliment, and decided that they were going to run with it. And I think that perhaps shows that rebellious attitude, taking on the establishment, doing their own thing, that defined Black Sabbath, and then also came to define the whole of the heavy metal genre with Metallica and Guns N' Roses really embodying and exemplifying it as well. He's known, of course, for his music, both in Black Sabbath and, of course, as well as a solo artist. He was an extremely successful solo artist in his own right as well. But he was also known to a whole new generation, probably, I think it's fair to say, quite a different group of people, if you like, the reality TV show watchers of the noughties who were pretty hooked on that pioneering, I think it's fair to say, reality TV show, The Osbournes, where he starred alongside his wife, Sharon, and 2 of their children as well, catapulting them all to a whole other level of fame as well, documenting their life in warts and all, a very, very honest reality TV show, I think it is fair to say, that really brought a new generation of fans as well to him. But extraordinary that the images that you're looking at and the music that we saw before, of course, just from that Villa Park gig that was given to him, that he wanted to give that send-off to his fans as well. Music legend Ozzy Osbourne dying at age 76, surrounded by love. And we have had a bit of reaction. Metallica, just one of the bands, of course, who was so influenced by him, just tweeting a picture of them and an emoji of a broken heart. And now we have also heard from Ronnie Wood, who is, again, someone who really needs no introduction, a rock musician, best known, of course, as a member of the Rolling Stones since 1975, also a member of the Faces. Well, he has come out to say that he is very sad to learn of the death of Ozzy Osbourne. He posted on X, "I'm so very sad to hear of the death of Ozzy Osbourne. What a lovely goodbye concert he had at Back to the Beginning in Birmingham." Just some of the kind of music legends, if you like, who will be paying tribute to this man, the Prince of Darkness, the kind of godfather of heavy metal in the coming hours and days as well. And Ronnie Wood there just emphasising, I guess, how fitting it was that he did manage to give his loyal fan base that performance just a few weeks ago at Villa Park. And it is worth saying as well how important the city of Birmingham was to him. He was born in Aston, in Birmingham. His mother worked in a factory. His dad was a toolmaker. Ozzy himself left school at 15, so he came from these working class roots, formed a band with a schoolmate, and then he was just catapulted to the stratospheric level of fame in the UK, but also in the United States as well. And of course, then having that, if you like, Hollywood lifestyle, he was part of that reality TV show with that glamorous-looking house, if you like, glamorous-looking wife, and then got his Hollywood star too. He was on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So really a man who had those strong roots in Birmingham, those strong working class roots, redefined music, one of the most influential musicians with all of those songs that we all remember, Paranoid and all the others that will be played, I'm sure, so much over the coming days as people remember his music as well. And of course, his stage presence as well is worth mentioning too, because he was a musician, but he was also a performer. I mean, we saw those images just a moment ago of that farewell tour at Villa Park, where he was off in the black throne with a bat on the background. He always dressed in black. He had that eyeliner that we always remember, those round glasses, the style that we associate with him so much. And also the fact he was always pushing the boundaries over what was acceptable, or things that weren't acceptable at all, I guess, like, biting a bat on stage. But that exemplifies rock and roll music. It exemplifies heavy metal, that rebellious sound, anthemic sound, that spoke to so many people. I definitely remember, the kind of music of my youth was very much influenced by this man, Ozzy Osbourne, and the way that he pushed the boundaries of music as well. He was a family man too, although I think he would admit that he had a turbulent life with so many people, in and out of some of those musical relationships he had, and I'm sure his family life wasn't always plain sailing. I mean, we saw some of it, of course, in that reality TV show, but it is worth paying tribute to that marriage as well, with his wife Sharon, the music manager Sharon Osbourne, the force of nature, the woman who was by his side throughout that reality TV programme and understood him so well, of course. His family putting out the statement to say that he died surrounded by love, and that was a statement put forward by his wife Sharon and their children as well. Let's talk now, shall we, to Emma Birchley. Emma, we've had a lot of reaction happen with me to the very sad news that the music legend Ozzy Osbourne has died, aged 76.
Yes, those tributes are beginning to emerge on social media. Ronnie Wood from the Rolling Stones. I'm so very sad to hear of the death of Ozzy Osbourne. What a lovely goodbye he had at Back to the Beginning in Birmingham. Of course, that at Villa Park just 2.5 weeks ago, where he emerged on a black throne, bejewelled with skulls, rising up through the stage for a concert attended by some of the hugest stars in the world: Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Youngblood, many of whom had cited him as a huge influence. He'd had to cancel concerts due to his health in 2023. And so this really seen as a final bow, called Back to the Beginning to 40,000 people. And he was in tears as he emerged at Villa Park. He said to the crowd, "You've no idea how I feel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." But other tributes coming in from Metallica, who were among those, of course, who performed at that concert. They had a photo together, and then, other than that, simply a broken heart emoji. But actually, it's not just people from the rock world. Oh, there's that photo there. So that was that on their tweet, and that broken heart emoji. But there are others too. Public Enemy. This is rap. Flavor Flav, he's even put a tribute saying, "Real heartbroken over the passing of Ozzy Osbourne. We go way back, and it was a real honour to watch him get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year." And I think that this is just the start of the tributes. There will be so many from across the world. This is a man who sold 100 million records during his time with Black Sabbath, and also as a solo artist. Of course, it was a turbulent time with the band. He was initially sacked back in 1979. After his very public battles with drink and drugs. Then he was back with the band, then he left again. And it was as a solo artist that Sharon would manage him, and actually she remained a driving force in his career. And she is the one who came up with the idea for that concert just a couple of weeks ago. So Ozzy Osbourne, at 76 years old, dying surrounded by love, according to his family.
Emma, thank you so much. We've got that statement, of course, from his family, Ozzy Osbourne dying, surrounded by love, a family man, of course, who, to many people, will have been known for his reality TV show, that show of the noughties, but then, of course, to that community of heavy metal fans, and actually music fans more generally, of course, I think it is fair to say as well, he was a music icon and someone who really did transform music, effectively inventing the heavy metal genre as well. Someone who came up from Birmingham, from a working class background, and hit the heights of Hollywood. We'll have more coming up with Sarah J. Mee.